Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Lacey and this is my art channel. Today we're opening the August ScrawlrBox. If you haven't seen my July ScrawlrBox, I will put it in the iCards above. I'm going to empty the box first so we can make room for all of these art supplies. First we have this artist eraser, and then we have the Scrawler Zine. We'll take a look at that toward the end of the video. We do have an artist print from our featured artist this month, and we also have a pad of A5 drawing paper. There are 10 sheets in the book. Once we open the tissue paper, we can see this month's ScrawlrBox sticker and the ScrawlrBox challenge, which is Where Rivers Flow. It says, take yourself mentally or physically where rivers flow. Woodlands flourish and valleys meet. This month's box is inspired by our featured artist's love for exploring the beauty of the great outdoors. Play about with sweeping, scraping, and scribbling your pastels to form tactile textures and fine details to your work. We can see that the main art supply that we're going to be using today is oil pastels. I actually personally love oil pastels. I've done quite a few tutorials online and done some paintings with them on my own as well. I'll post some of my examples here if I can find them. The first thing I noticed about these when I opened them was how wet they were. Now I actually filmed this a couple of weeks before I would film using them. I thought they were very wet because it was hot outside, but when I actually used them, they were also still very wet to the touch. I don't mean wet like paint, but I guess just really creamy. Later I will show you the oil pastels that I normally use and we can compare them so you could kind of see what I'm used to compared to these. They also gave us some oil pastel paper. I was a bit confused because they already gave us drawing paper, but oh well, I guess more paper for me. They also gave us a 5B pencil, a paper blending stump, and a little stick to chisel with. I kind of showed those before I opened the oil pastels, but I just didn't really mention it. And then they gave us a little candy. This time it was a spearmint chew. Looking at the design, they start out by showing us all the contents of the box. I appreciate this, especially when I get my desk very cluttered and I start wondering if I've lost or missed anything. So it's kind of nice to just see everything that's supposed to be in the box. And I guess you can make sure that you got everything that you were supposed to get as well. The next page is all about this month's featured artist. This month it's Julie Avisar. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sorry if I'm not. We could see more examples of her work too. We have a page on advice about how to use the medium. This was super useful to me last month when we were using the alcohol inks and I didn't have much experience in that. That being said, every month I just go ahead and read the whole Zine, and even this month I found it helpful to read some tips that I may not have considered. Afterward, we have an artist gallery from the June ScrawlrBox. These are just artworks that people have made using the ScrawlrBox, and then to end the Zine, we have a whole page about oil pastels and how they were created and things like that. I do find it to be super interesting, so like I said, I always read everything in the Zine. Okay, so I just like to start out using my personal sketchbook. I like to just swatch the mediums and see how they react on the paper and with one another. I definitely keep in mind that in my sketchbook I have super smooth paper, whereas the paper that I'm going to be using will most likely have a different texture, and it definitely does. It's a lot rougher. I personally do like the rougher paper for the oil pastels. I tape in the challenge so we don't forget, and I can also refer to that later if I get off track. I go ahead and I just stick the little stickers from the box in there as well, somewhere to keep them and give us some inspiration. I already knew that I wanted to attempt to do something autumn themed. The temperature here has begun to drop and it's definitely got me in the autumn vibes this week. I start out by sketching a pumpkin to try out the oil pastels with. I was using a mechanical pencil because I didn't realize that I picked it up instead of the 5B pencil. I will switch it later on. I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't have more colors. I think personally I would have appreciated or benefited from a brown, an orange, and a red, especially because I wanted to do an autumn theme. But I think I persevered despite not having all the colors that I could have wanted. Like I said before, I was using very slick paper, and that with the slickness of the oil pastels, it was definitely interesting to try it out. It was very foreign to me in a way because, like I said before, the oil pastels that I own aren't nearly as wet as these, and the paper that I normally use isn't as slick as this book as well, so it was definitely different than what I was used to. So I realized I needed to erase a lot of the pencil because I could see it really clearly underneath the oil pastel, and this eraser was very intense in my opinion, which is, it was a good thing. It didn't take any pressure at all to erase, and it did a super good job at erasing. The eraser was like stiffer than some of my other erasers, so I didn't think it was going to work as well, but it actually exceeded my expectations. Next, I sketched out a moth. I wanted to make another illustration so I could show you my oil pastels and kind of what I'm used to. If you don't want to see this part, you can skip ahead, of course. I know it didn't come in the box. It's just I find it interesting to see the difference in how it will react on this paper. So I have 2 boxes of oil pastels. I think I bought them together like as a set. They're somewhat old. I think maybe like 4 or 5 years old, but I don't think the texture has really changed over the years. I don't think that's why they're drier. I think that's just like how they were when I bought them. I think I bought them at the Hobby Lobby in the US. We don't have that shop here in Quebec, but as you can see, I have many different colors and variations of colors, which I like. Having a lot of different colors, that's something that we didn't really have with this ScrawlrBox, but I can understand that they're just sending us a sample. They can't really send us like a huge set. You may be able to see the texture on my oil pastels. If I touch it, I don't get like a big smear of it on my skin like the ones in the box. I'm not saying that I like these better than the others. I'm not sure which one is a better quality, as this is the only set I've known. It was just interesting to me, as I assumed that the ones I owned were just how oil pastels were supposed to be. And then seeing these, I'm like, are mine supposed to be wetter? I don't know. If you used oil pastels before, you could let me know in the comments like which texture slash consistency you prefer. So I decided to sketch out a moth, like I said, and try out my oil pastels on this paper. It's something I haven't done before because, like I said, I normally do it on a rougher paper. It's like a multimedia sketchbook that I have. Using this paper, I definitely see that mine are also very slick on this paper. Less wet, but still very slick. Over time, the oil pastels from the ScrawlrBox actually did dry a bit more, like being on this paper. I think both of the sets would most likely smear if I closed the book, so I ended up putting like a piece of wax paper in between the pages so it would prevent it from like smearing all over the other page. After testing them out, I decided to test the blending stump and the scratcher. They were fun. It's something that I really haven't tried before. I do have a blending stump, but I've never used it. It was very handy, especially because in the past I just used a bit of like tissue paper, like from gifts, to blend with. So this worked really well and was definitely less messy and a lot more convenient. A spoiler alert, the blending didn't go very well on this paper, but it does do a lot better on the oil pastel paper as it had like a more grain to it. I also find it very fun to do the scratching method. That's something I also hadn't tried before. I didn't end up using this method in my final illustration, but I think it's something that I could try again in the future just for fun. After I tried that out, I wanted to show all of you these pastel pencils that I had bought. I normally use these to do like any black outlines, as it has like a finer tip than using the oil pastels, because the oil pastels are almost like a crayon in their shape. I didn't end up using these pastel pencils in the final illustration just because I wanted to stick to everything that came in the box, but I did want to show them to you. I was a bit nervous to do the final illustration just because I really wanted to do an autumn scene, but I didn't have that many colors. This illustration really didn't take me as long as I thought, and might be the fastest illustration I've done with oil pastels, which was surprising to me. I started out watching a tutorial, but I quickly abandoned it as I built my confidence. I knew I didn't want my illustration to look like their illustration, but watching it definitely brought back memories of learning oil pastels and reminding me that, like, oh yeah, you've done this before many times, just trust in yourself. And to be honest, I really like how my illustration came out in the end. You all will have to let me know at the end if you liked how the illustration came out as well. I think I'm going to end my dialogue here just so you guys can watch the rest of it with some music. I do look forward to talking to all of you in the comments. If you try out this illustration and you would like to show it to me on social media, all my links are down below. You just have to click the link tree and it'll show it to you. If you want to, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button, as that directly helps support me and my channel. Thank you for making it this far, and since you made it this far, put in autumn themed emoji in the comments below to let me know you made it. And I look forward to seeing all of you in my next video. It's going to be an October bullet journal video, so I look forward to seeing you there. Okay, bye!